Maya's hands trembled as she gripped the wheels of her chair, mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. 30 minutes ago, she was a bride. Now, she was just a woman in a wedding dress, abandoned in a church garden while 200 guests whispered inside. But in exactly 1 hour, a stranger would walk into her life and do something so unexpected, so impossible, that it would change everything she believed about love, worth, and second chances. The morning had started like a dream. Willowbrook Community Church glowed with soft white flowers and flickering candles. Maya had woken at dawn, her heart racing with the kind of excitement that makes your chest feel too small. 3 years. 3 years with Ethan, and today was supposed to be there forever. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, her best friend Rachel helping her into the lace gown they'd picked out together. The dress had been specially altered to fit perfectly over her seated position, elegant and flowing. Maya had stared at herself in the mirror, fighting back tears of joy. For a moment, she'd almost forgotten about the wheelchair, almost forgotten about the accident 2 years ago that had stolen her ability to walk, but hadn't, she'd believed, stolen her chance at happiness. "You look absolutely stunning," Rachel had whispered, adjusting Maya's veil. "Ethan's going to lose his mind when he sees you." Maya had smiled, clutching her bouquet of white roses. She'd believed it. God, she'd believed it so completely. The first sign came when Ethan was 20 minutes late to their scheduled first look, then 30. Rachel had gone to find him, returning with a strange expression Maya couldn't quite read. Concern? Pity? Fear? "He needs to talk to you," Rachel had said quietly. Alone. Maya's stomach had dropped, but she'd pushed down the anxiety. Pre-wedding jitters. That's all it was. Ethan had promised her, hadn't he? After the accident, when she'd offered to break off the engagement, he'd held her, hands, and sworn nothing would change. "You're still you, Maya. I love you. We're doing this." But when Ethan walked into the dressing room, he couldn't meet her eyes. "I can't do this," he'd said. Just like that. 5 words that shattered her world. Maya had felt her blood turn to ice. "What?" "I tried, Maya. I really tried." Ethan's voice cracked, but there was something else beneath it. Relief? "But I can't live this life. The wheelchair, the limitations, the future we'd have to have. It's not what I signed up for." "You promised." Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. "You looked me in the eye and promised." "I know. I thought I could handle it. But it's been 2 years, and it's not getting easier. It's getting harder. Every time I think about our future, about kids, about traveling, about everything we talked about, it all feels impossible now." Maya's hands had gripped the armrests of her wheelchair, so hard her knuckles went white. "So you're leaving me? 30 minutes before our wedding? I'm sorry. I know the timing is horrible, but I couldn't stand at that altar and lie. I couldn't make promises I don't know if I can keep. Get out." The words had come from somewhere deep and primal. Get out right now. And he had. Ethan had simply turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Walked away. Something Maya would never be able to do, and in that moment, the symbolism felt like a knife twisting in her chest. Rachel had found her 10 minutes later, sobbing in her chair, the veil torn from her head and crumpled on the floor. Together, they'd made the announcement to the guests. Maya couldn't remember exactly what Rachel had said. Something about unforeseen circumstances, the wedding being called off, apologizing for any inconvenience. The whispers had started immediately. Maya could hear them even through the closed door. "Poor thing. Can you blame him, really? Such a shame. She's so young. She couldn't stay in that. Building another second." Maya had wheeled herself out the side door into the garden, desperate for air, desperate to escape the pitying looks and the sympathetic touches on her shoulder. Now she sat alone on the stone pathway, surrounded by the roses and hydrangeas that were supposed to be her wedding backdrop. The September sun warmed her face, which felt wrong. How could the day be so beautiful when her life was falling apart? "I knew it," she whispered to herself, tears falling freely now. "I knew no one would want me like this." Before the accident, Maya had been a dancer. Not professionally, but it had been her passion, her joy, the way she expressed herself when words weren't enough. The car accident had stolen that from her in an instant. A drunk driver, an intersection, and suddenly Maya's life had divided into before and after. She'd spent months in physical therapy, fighting to regain whatever function she could. The doctors had been honest but kind. The spinal injury was severe. Wheelchair-dependent for life, most likely. Maybe someday there would be advances in medicine, but for now, this was her reality. Ethan had visited her in the hospital every day, at first. He'd held her hand during the diagnosis, promised they'd face it together. But Maya had seen the change happen slowly, like watching flowers wilt in time-lapse. The way his smile became forced. The way he'd hesitate before making plans. The way he'd started saying, "We'll see," instead of "yes," to her ideas about their future. She'd tried to break up with him once, about 6 months after the accident. "You don't have to stay," she'd told him. "I would understand." "Don't be ridiculous," he'd said. "We're getting married, Maya. Nothing's changed." But everything had changed. And now, on what should have been the happiest day of her life, Ethan had finally admitted what Maya had feared all along. She was too much, too difficult, too broken. A bird landed near her wheelchair, pecking at the grass. Maya watched it hop around, so free, so effortless in its movement. She'd never thought about movement before the accident, never appreciated the miracle of simply standing up or walking across a room. Now those losses haunted her every single day. She heard footsteps approaching and tensed, praying it wasn't another well-meaning guest coming to offer condolences. She couldn't take another "everything happens for a reason" or "you'll find someone better." But the footsteps stopped a respectful distance away, and a male voice spoke. "I don't mean to intrude, but are you okay?" Maya almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Was she okay? She was wearing a wedding dress, crying in a church garden, clearly alone, but something in the voice made her look up. The man standing there was tall, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and an uncertain expression. He wore jeans and a button-down shirt, clearly not a wedding guest. Next to him stood a little girl with pigtails, holding his hand and looking at Maya with wide, curious eyes. Maya started, then stopped. What was the point in lying? "No, I'm really not okay." The man nodded slowly, not moving closer but not leaving either. "I'm Jack. This is my daughter, Ellie. We were just walking to the school playground down the street, and we heard someone crying. Congratulations on finding me," Maya said bitterly, wiping at her face. "I'm sure it's quite a sight. You look like a princess." The little girl, Ellie, said suddenly. Her voice was small but sincere. "Your dress is really pretty." Despite everything, Maya felt a small crack in her armor. "Thank you, sweetheart." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "Listen, I know you don't know us, but my daughter's right. You do look, you look like someone who shouldn't be crying alone in a garden. I don't want to pry, but is there someone I can call for you? Someone who should be here?" Maya let out a shaky breath. Something about this stranger's gentle concern, with no pity in his voice, just genuine care, made her want to tell the truth. The person who should be here just walked out, 30 minutes before the wedding. He decided that being married to someone in a wheelchair was too much of a burden. She watched Jack's face carefully, waiting for the awkwardness, the uncomfortable shift, the quick exit, but instead, his expression darkened with something that looked like anger. "He said that? More or less." Maya looked down at her lap, at the white dress that now felt like a costume. "He said he tried, but couldn't live with the limitations, couldn't imagine a future with me like this." "Then, he's an idiot," Jack said flatly. "And you're better off," Maya's head snapped up. "You don't know anything about it." "You're right, I don't." Jack took a tentative step closer. "But I know what it looks like when someone gives up on someone else, because things get hard. And I know that person isn't worth your tears." There was something in his voice, some personal pain that made Maya study him more closely. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." Jack glanced down at Ellie, then back at Maya. "My ex-wife left when Ellie was 3 months old. Said motherhood was too hard, too demanding, not what she'd signed up for. So yeah, I know a little something about people who bail when life doesn't match their fantasy." The little girl, Ellie, leaned against her father's leg, seemingly unbothered by the conversation. She was still staring at Maya with those big, curious eyes. Maya felt something shift inside her. This stranger understood. Not the exact circumstances, but the gut-wrenching pain of being left behind, of being deemed not worth the effort. "I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry it's happening to you." Jack paused. "Look, I know this is weird. We're complete strangers, and you're in the middle of what's probably the worst day of your life. But my daughter and I were about to go. Get ice cream before heading to the playground. Would you? I mean, you don't have to sit here alone. If you want company, no strings attached, no questions asked, you're welcome to join us." Maya stared at him, shocked by the offer. Ice cream? With a stranger and his child? It was absurd. It was inappropriate. It was. Actually, it was the first thing all day that didn't make her want to crawl out of her own skin. Maya looked down at her ruined makeup, her elaborate wedding dress, and then back at this stranger offering her ice cream like it was the most normal thing in the world. A laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, surprising her. It came out half sob, half genuine amusement. "Ice cream," she repeated. "You're inviting me for ice cream." "Chocolate chip is my favorite," Ellie offered helpfully. "But they have strawberry too." Jack gave a small, apologetic smile. "I know it sounds ridiculous, but sitting in this garden feeling awful isn't going to make anything better. And honestly, ice cream has solved more problems in my life than I care to admit." Maya wiped at her eyes again, smearing what was left of her mascara. "I look like a disaster." "You look like someone who's been through something terrible," Jack corrected gently. "There's a difference, and I promise you, nobody at Rosie's ice cream shop is going to judge you. Mrs. Rosie has seen everything in this town." For a moment, Maya just sat there, weighing her options. She could go back inside the church, face the pitying looks and awkward conversations. She could call Rachel to drive her home, where she'd spend the rest of the day staring at walls and drowning in her own misery. Or she could do something completely unexpected, something that made no sense at all. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Okay, ice cream sounds good." Ellie's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Really?" Maya managed a weak smile. "Though I should warn you, I'm probably going to cry into whatever flavor I choose." "That's okay," Ellie said, with the easy acceptance of childhood. "My daddy cries sometimes too. He thinks I don't see, but I do." Jack's ears turned slightly red. "Ellie, what? You do? Like when we watched that movie about the dog that goes to heaven?" Despite everything, Maya felt another small crack in the wall of her grief. There was something refreshingly honest about this child, something pure that cut through all the complicated adult emotions swirling in her chest. The ice cream shop was only 2 blocks away. Jack walked slowly beside Maya's wheelchair, never too far ahead, matching her pace without making it obvious. Ellie skipped alongside them, occasionally running ahead and then circling back, chattering about her new school and her teacher, Miss Peterson, who wore funny glasses. People stared. Of course they stared. A woman in a full wedding dress, makeup streaked down her face, rolling down Main Street with a stranger and his child at 11 in the morning. Maya felt each look like a physical touch, but Jack seemed completely oblivious to the attention, or perhaps he was just pretending for her sake. When they reached Rosie's, an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes took one look at Maya and didn't ask a single question. "What can I get you, sweetheart?" "Mint chocolate chip," Maya said quietly. 2 scoops. "Make it 3, Jack said. "She's had a rough morning." "Missus," Rosie nodded wisely. 3 scoops it is. On the house." They sat at a corner table, Maya's wheelchair pulled up to the end. Ellie attacked her strawberry cone with enthusiasm, while Jack and Maya ate their ice cream in a surprisingly comfortable silence. Finally, Maya spoke. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Jack looked up from his coffee. "Doing what?" "This. Helping me. You don't know me. You could have just kept walking." He was quiet for a moment, considering. "About 4 years ago, right after my ex left, I had a complete breakdown in a grocery store parking lot. Ellie was screaming in her car seat. I hadn't slept in days, and I just lost it. Sat there crying, while my infant daughter wailed. And this woman, probably in her 70s, knocked on my window. She didn't ask what was wrong. She just said, 'Honey, lock your car and come with me.' She took us into the store's cafe, bought me coffee, held Ellie while I pulled myself together, and told me that the hardest moments don't last forever, but the kindness we show each other does." Maya felt tears prickling her eyes again. "What was her name?" "I never asked. Never saw her again either." but I've never forgotten it. So when I heard you crying today, I thought, maybe I could be that person for someone else. Even if it's just ice cream and terrible conversation, the conversation's not terrible," Maya said softly. She took another bite of ice cream, letting the cold sweetness ground her. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Do you ever feel angry? About your ex leaving?" Jack's jaw tightened slightly. "Every single day for the first year. Less now, but yeah, sometimes the anger still hits me. Especially when Ellie asks about her mom, or when she sees other kids with both parents. But I've learned that anger is it's just love, with nowhere to go. I loved my ex. I loved the family I thought we'd be. That love didn't just disappear when she left. It had to transform into something else. What did it transform into? Mostly? Determination. To be enough for Ellie. To show her that she's worth staying for, worth fighting for, worth every sleepless night and every sacrifice. Because she is. She's worth everything." Maya looked at Ellie, who was now completely absorbed in drawing on a napkin with crayons Mrs. Rosie had provided. "She's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her," Jack corrected. "She saved my life, honestly. Gave me a reason to get up every morning when all I wanted to do was stay in bed. Forced me to be better than I felt." Maya pushed her ice cream around with her spoon. "I keep thinking about all the things Ethan said, about the limitations, about the future being impossible. And the worst part is, some of it is true. I can't dance anymore, can't do a lot of things I used to do. There are complications, difficulties, things that able-bodied people don't have to think about. So," Jack's voice was gentle but firm, "everyone has limitations, Maya. Everyone. Mine is that I'm a single parent working 2 jobs who barely makes rent some months. Ellie's is that she's growing up without a mother. Your limitation just happens to be visible, but that doesn't make you less worthy of love. It just makes you human. Ethan didn't see it that way. Then Ethan's vision is the limitation, not your wheelchair." The words hit Maya like a physical force. She'd spent 2 years internalizing Ethan's growing distance, his subtle hints that their life was harder because of her condition. She'd started to believe that she was the problem, that her body's betrayal had made her somehow less deserving of happiness. "I don't know if I believe that," she admitted. "You don't have to believe it right now," Jack said. "But maybe you could consider the possibility that it might be true. That's all I'm asking." Ellie suddenly looked up from her drawing. "I'm done. Look." She pushed the napkin across the table. It was a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures, one in a chair, one tall, one small. They were all holding hands, surrounded by flowers and a bright yellow sun. "That's us," Ellie announced proudly. "At the ice cream shop. I put flowers because you have a pretty dress like a garden." Maya stared at the drawing, something cracking open in her chest. This child, who'd known her for less than an hour, had drawn her not as someone to pity or feel sorry for, but simply as someone who belonged in the picture. The wheelchair wasn't the focus. It was just part of who she was, no more defining than Jack being tall or Ellie being small. "Can I keep this?" Maya asked, her voice thick. "Yes, I made it for you," Ellie beamed. "So you remember that ice cream fixes things. Thank you, Ellie. I'll treasure it." They sat there for another 20 minutes, the conversation drifting to lighter topics. Jack told her about moving to Willowbrook last month for a job at the hardware store, about Ellie starting 2nd grade and her obsession with dinosaurs. Maya found herself talking about her art, how she'd been a graphic designer before the accident and had slowly been building her freelance business back up over the past year. "Wait," Jack said, leaning forward. Maya Chen? You designed the logo for Henderson's Bakery downtown?" Maya blinked in surprise. "You know my work?" "Know it? It's brilliant. When I first saw it, I thought they'd hired some big city firm. The way you incorporated the rolling pin into the letter H, the vintage feel but modern execution, it's really impressive." For the first time all day, Maya felt a flush of pride instead of shame. "Thank you. That means a lot. I wasn't sure I could still do creative work after the accident. Thought maybe I'd lost that too." "You didn't lose anything," Jack said firmly. "Your tools changed, maybe. Your process adapted. But the creativity, the talent, that's still there. That's yours. Nobody can take that from you." Maya's phone buzzed for the 15th time. Rachel probably, or her mum. People wanting to check on her, make sure she was okay, offer support she wasn't ready to accept. She ignored it. I should probably face reality eventually, Maya said, looking at her phone. Go home, figure out how to cancel a honeymoon and return wedding gifts, and explain to everyone why the wedding fell apart. Eventually, Jack agreed, but not right this second. Right this second, you're eating ice cream with new friends. The hard stuff can wait another hour. Another hour. Maya realized that's exactly what she needed. Just a little more time before. She had to face everything waiting for her. A little more time in this strange, unexpected bubble where a kind stranger treated her like a person instead of a tragedy. Can I tell you something? Maya said suddenly. Something I haven't said out loud to anyone? Of course. I'm terrified that Ethan's right. That no one's ever going to want to deal with my situation. That I'll always be too much work, too complicated, too broken. Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was serious. I can't promise you that everyone you meet will see your worth. Some people have vision problems that have nothing to do with eyes. But I can tell you this. In the last hour, I've met someone who was left at the altar, publicly humiliated, and probably experiencing one of the worst days of her life. And you know what I saw? What? Someone who still said thank you to Mrs. Rosie. Someone who complimented my daughter's drawing even though you were crying. Someone who asked about my pain instead of only focusing on your own. That's not broken, Maya. That's grace under pressure. That's strength. And anyone who can't see that isn't worth your time. Maya felt tears sliding down her face again, but they felt different now. Cleaner, somehow. Like they were washing something away instead of just expressing pain. I don't feel strong, she whispered. The strongest people never do, Jack said. That's kind of the point. Ellie had finished her ice cream and was starting to get restless. She tugged on Jack's sleeve. Daddy, can we go to the playground now? Please? Jack looked at Maya questioningly. What do you think? Feel like some fresh air that isn't church garden fresh air? Maya surprised herself by nodding. Actually, yes. That sounds good. The playground was a short walk away, right next to Willowbrook Elementary. It was empty on this Saturday morning, just the three of them and the sound of wind through the trees. Ellie ran immediately to the swings, calling for Jack to push her. Maya positioned herself near a bench, watching Jack push his daughter higher and higher, Ellie's laughter ringing out like bells. There was something healing about it, about watching this simple moment of joy between father and daughter. It reminded her that life was still happening, that happiness still existed, even on days when it felt impossible. After a while, Ellie ran off to the slide, and Jack came to sit on the bench next to Maya's wheelchair. She's wonderful, Maya said. You're doing an amazing job with her. I'm terrified every single day that I'm screwing it up, Jack admitted. That she needs a mother, that I'm not enough, that she'll grow up damaged because of my failures. She won't, Maya said with certainty. She's growing up knowing she's loved. That's what matters. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Ellie play. Finally, Jack spoke again. Can I ask you something that might be overstepping? At this point, I think we're past boundaries, Maya said with a small smile. What do you want, Maya? Not what Ethan wanted, not what you think you should want, but what do you actually want for your life? The question caught her off guard. She'd spent so long focused on what she'd lost, on what she couldn't have anymore, that she hadn't thought about what she still could have. I want to create, she said slowly. I want to build my design business into something real. I want to travel, even if it takes more planning now. I want to prove to myself that I'm still capable of living fully, not just surviving. She paused. And I want to fall in love with someone who sees all of me. Not just the wheelchair, not despite the wheelchair, but someone who sees me as a complete person who happens to use a wheelchair. That doesn't sound impossible, Jack said quietly. That sounds like a beautiful life. You think so? I know so. Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and felt something shift. This man, this stranger, who'd found her at her lowest point, had given her something precious. Not pity, not charity, but genuine human connection. He'd reminded her that she was still a person worthy of kindness, of conversation, of friendship. Thank you, she said, for today, for stopping, for the ice cream and the conversation, and just for seeing me. Thank you for letting me, Jack replied. For trusting a random stranger with your worst day, Ellie called out from the top of the slide. Daddy, Maya, watch this. They both turned to watch as she slid down with her arms raised triumphantly. When she reached the bottom, she ran over to them, slightly out of breath. Did you see? I was so brave. You were incredibly brave, Maya agreed, and felt the words resonate in her own chest. Brave. Maybe that's what she needed to be now. Not fearless, but brave enough to keep going anyway. The sun was starting its descent toward the horizon when Maya finally checked her phone. 43 missed calls, 7 text messages. Her inbox was a disaster of concern, confusion, and questions she wasn't ready to answer. But one message stood out, sent just 20 minutes ago from Rachel. Wherever you are, I hope you're okay. I packed up your things from the church. Your mom knows you're safe. Take all the time you need. I love you. Maya felt a wave of gratitude for her friend, followed immediately by a wave of dread. She'd have to go home eventually. Face her mother's worried eyes, her father's barely concealed anger at Ethan, the empty apartment that was supposed to become their marital home. The weight of real life was creeping back in, heavy and unavoidable. You okay? Jack asked, noticing her expression change. Reality is calling, Maya said, holding up her phone. I can't hide in a playground forever, much as I'd like to. Ellie had moved to the monkey bars, hanging upside down with the fearlessness of youth. Jack watched her for a moment, then turned back to Maya. Can I tell you? Something that might sound crazy? After the day I've had, I don't think anything could sound crazy. Jack took a breath, seeming to gather courage. When Sarah, my ex, left, I spent months asking myself what I did wrong, what I could have done differently, how I could have been better, stronger, more capable of handling everything alone. And then one day, Ellie said something that changed everything. What did she say? She was about 2 years old, barely talking in full sentences. We were having breakfast, and out of nowhere she looked at me and said, "Happy, Daddy," just those 2 words. And I realized I'd been so focused on what we'd lost that I'd forgotten to see what we still had. I had this incredible little person who thought I was enough, exactly as I was. Maya felt her throat tighten. That's beautiful. My point is, Jack continued, sometimes the life we end up with isn't the one we planned, but that doesn't make it less valuable. It's just different, and different can be good, different can be better, even. I want to believe that, Maya said. I really do. But right now it just feels like everything I wanted is gone. Everything you wanted with Ethan is gone, Jack corrected gently. But you're still here. Your talent is still here. Your capacity to love and be loved is still here. That's not nothing, Maya. That's everything. They sat quietly, the only sounds being Ellie's play and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Maya thought about the morning, about standing in front of the mirror in her wedding dress, believing she knew exactly what her future held. How naive that seemed now. How fragile that certainty had been. You know what the worst part is? Maya said suddenly. I knew. Deep down, I knew Ethan was pulling away. I could feel it. But I ignored it because I was so desperate to prove that I could still have a normal life, a normal relationship, a normal wedding. I wanted so badly to not let the accident win. The accident didn't win, Jack said firmly. It changed things, yes, but you're still you. The accident couldn't touch that. How do you know? Maya's voice cracked. You've known me for 3 hours. Sometimes 3 hours is enough. Jack met her eyes steadily. I've watched you handle the worst rejection imaginable with grace. I've seen you be kind to my daughter when you had every reason to be bitter and closed off. I've heard you talk about your dreams and your art with passion. That's not someone who's been defeated. That's someone who's still fighting. Maya wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But 2 years of Ethan's subtle disappointments, his careful distance, his gradually fading enthusiasm, had carved deep grooves of doubt into her soul. What if I'm never enough? She whispered. For anyone? Jack was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and intense. Maya, look at me. She did. You are enough. Right now, in this moment, exactly as you are enough. The wheelchair doesn't change that. Ethan's failure to see your worth doesn't change that. Nothing changes that fundamental truth. You are enough. A sob broke from Maya's chest, and then another. All the pain, all the fear, all the grief she'd been holding came pouring out. Jack didn't try to stop her or comfort her with platitudes. He just sat there, present and steady, while she fell apart. When the storm finally passed, Maya felt emptied out, but somehow lighter. She wiped her face with her hands, probably destroying what little remained of her makeup. "I'm sorry," she said. "This is such a mess. I'm such a mess." "You're human," Jack said. "That's all. Just beautifully, perfectly human." Ellie had noticed Maya crying and came running over, her face concerned. "Are you sad again?" "A little," Maya admitted. "But it's okay. Sometimes crying helps." "That's what Daddy says too." Ellie looked between them, then suddenly brightened. "I know. We should make a wish. When I'm sad, we make wishes, and sometimes they come true." "I don't know if wishes work like that, sweetheart," Jack said gently. "Yes, they do. Remember when I wished for a friend at my new school, and then Tommy shared his cookies with me at lunch? Wishes work." Ellie grabbed Maya's hand with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. "Come on, we'll wish together." There was something about the little girl's earnest belief that made Maya smile despite everything. "Okay, what do we wish for?" "You have to close your eyes and wish for something that will make you happy," Ellie instructed, seriously. "But don't say it out loud or it won't come true." Maya closed her eyes, and for a moment, she wasn't sure what to wish for. The life she'd planned was gone. The future she'd imagined had evaporated. But standing there, or rather sitting there, with this strange new friend and his daughter, she realized what she wanted. She wished for courage. Courage to rebuild. Courage to believe in her own worth. Courage to imagine a future that might be different from what she'd planned, but could still be beautiful. When she opened her eyes, Jack was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Did you wish?" Ellie asked eagerly. "I did." "Good. Now it's going to come true." Ellie hugged Maya impulsively, and Maya felt something inside her chest crack open a little wider. This child, this perfect little human, saw nothing wrong with her, saw nothing to pity or fix, just saw a person worthy of hugs and wishes and friendship. "Thank you, Ellie," Maya said softly. "You've made this day so much better." "That's what friends do," Ellie declared. Then she looked at her father. "Daddy, can Maya come have dinner with us? Please? We're having spaghetti, and it's really good." Jack looked startled, then uncertain. Then he glanced at Maya. "You're welcome to, of course, but I don't want to pressure you. I'm sure you need to get home, deal with everything." Maya thought about her empty apartment, the phone calls she'd have to make, the explanations she'd have to give. She thought about sitting alone with her grief and her shame and her fear. And then she thought about spaghetti with a kind man and his wonderful daughter, about extending this unexpected reprieve from reality just a little bit longer. "I would love to," she said, surprising herself. "If you're sure I'm not intruding." "Intruding?" Jack shook his head. "Maya, you've given me and Ellie a gift today too, even if you don't realize it. You've reminded me why I do what I do, why I try to show Ellie that kindness matters. Having you at dinner would be an honor." They walked slowly back toward Jack's apartment, which turned out to be a modest two-bedroom place above a bookshop on Main Street. Jack carried Ellie on his shoulders while she chatted about her stuffed dinosaur collection, and Maya wheeled alongside them, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life, someone whose wedding day hadn't just imploded, someone who belonged in this strange, sweet moment. The apartment was small but tidy, with Ellie's drawings covering the refrigerator and toys neatly organized in bins. It smelled like home, lived in and loved. Jack set Ellie down and she immediately ran to her room to get her dinosaurs to show Maya. "I should warn you," Jack said, moving to the kitchen. "I'm not a great cook. Spaghetti is about the extent of my culinary skills." "Spaghetti sounds perfect," Maya said, and it did. The normalcy of it, the ordinariness, felt like a balm after the extraordinary awfulness of the morning. While Jack cooked and Ellie gave Maya an enthusiastic tour of her plastic dinosaur collection, complete with names and detailed backstories, Maya felt herself slowly coming back to herself. Not the self she'd been that morning, the bride full of hope and fear, but a different self, someone who'd survived the worst and was still here, still breathing, still capable of smiling at her 7-year-old stories about a T-Rex named Mr. Chompers. Over dinner, simple spaghetti with garlic bread and salad, They talked about everything except weddings. Ellie told knock-knock jokes that made no sense but made them all laugh anyway. Jack shared stories about his most ridiculous customers at the hardware store. Maya found herself talking about a logo design she was working on for a local veterinary clinic, about the challenge of capturing both professionalism and warmth in a single image. It wasn't until they'd finished eating, and Ellie had been sent to wash up for bed, that Maya and Jack found themselves alone in the living room, the comfortable silence of the day settling around them again. "I should probably go," Maya said, though she didn't move. "It's getting late. Can I drive you home?" Jack offered. "I don't like the idea of you wheeling through town alone in the dark, especially after the day you've had." "That would be nice, actually. Thank you." But before they could move, Ellie came running out in her pajamas, her hair damp from washing her face. She threw her arms around Maya's neck. "Will I see you again?" Ellie asked. "Please say yes." "You're my friend now." Maya felt tears threatening again, but they were different tears now. "I would really like that, Ellie. I would like that a lot. Promise?" "I promise." Satisfied, Ellie hugged her father goodnight and headed to her room. Jack watched her go with an expression of pure love that made Maya's heart ache with its beauty. "She doesn't usually warm up to people that quickly," Jack said quietly. "But there's something about you. She feels it too." "Feels what?" "That you're genuine, that you're safe. Kids have a sense about these things." Jack drove Maya home in his old pickup truck, her wheelchair folded in the back. The ride was quiet, both of them seemingly lost in their own thoughts. When they pulled up to Maya's apartment building, Jack got out and helped her with her chair, his movements practiced and respectful. "Thank you," Maya said, "for everything today. You saved me, you know, in more ways than one." "You saved yourself," Jack said. "I just reminded you that you could." They stood there, or rather Maya sat and Jack stood, in the soft glow of the streetlight. Maya felt like she should say something profound, something that captured the weight of what had happened today. But sometimes there are no words big enough. "Can I see you again?" Jack asked suddenly. "I mean, I know today was intense and weird, and I don't want to presume anything, but I'd like to see you again. As friends, I mean. No pressure. Just, I'd like to know how you're doing, how you're healing." Maya smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "I'd like that too. Very much." They exchanged numbers, and Jack waited until Maya was safely inside her building before driving away. Inside her apartment, Maya finally let herself look at the reality she'd been avoiding all day. The wedding. Gifts stacked in the corner, still unwrapped. The honeymoon tickets on the counter. The photos of her and Ethan scattered around, evidence of a life that no longer existed. But instead of collapsing under the weight of it, Maya felt something else. Something like possibility. The day had started with an ending, yes. But maybe, just maybe, it had also been a beginning. She picked up her phone and sent a text to Rachel. "I'm home, I'm okay. Long story, but I think I'm going to be okay." Then she sent another text, this one to Jack. "Thank you for reminding me that I'm enough. Today was impossible in all the best ways." His response came quickly. "The impossible is just the difficult, taking a little longer. You've got this, Maya, and you're not alone." Maya looked at Ellie's drawing from the ice cream shop, which she'd carefully placed on her table. 3 stick figures holding hands, surrounded by flowers and sunshine. A moment captured in crayon that represented something profound. A turning point she hadn't seen coming. The wedding she'd planned hadn't happened, but something else had. Something unexpected and beautiful and real. She'd met someone who saw her, truly saw her, and didn't look away. She'd been reminded that her worth wasn't tied to someone else's ability to recognize it. She'd learned that the worst day of your life could also contain moments of grace, if you were brave enough to accept them. Maya wheeled herself to the window and looked out at Willowbrook, at the town that was supposed to be the site of her happily ever after. Maybe it still could be, just not in the way she'd imagined. She thought about Jack's words from the playground. Different can be good, different can be better, even. "Here's to different," Maya whispered to herself, touching the window glass. "Here's to impossible things that turn out to be possible after all." And for the first time all day, when Maya thought about her future, she didn't feel fear. She felt something else, entirely, something that felt a lot like hope. If Maya's story touched your heart, if you've ever felt rejected or not enough, I want you to know something. You are worthy. Right now, exactly as you are worthy of love, of kindness, of beautiful, impossible things. And if you need a reminder of that, subscribe to Humanity Stories. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment sharing one thing you're grateful for today, and give this video a like if it reminded you of your own strength, because we all need reminding sometimes. We all need our own Jack to show up when we're at our lowest. And maybe, just maybe, you can be that person for someone else. 3 months later, Maya stood in the same church garden where Jack had found her, but this time, she wasn't alone and crying. She was surrounded by friends at a community art show, displaying the graphic design work she'd poured her heart into. The series was called Different Beautiful, and each piece explored themes of adaptation, resilience, and finding grace in unexpected places. And there, standing near her hope piece, a digital illustration of 3 figures holding hands surrounded by flowers, were Jack and Ellie, smiling at her across the garden like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Because she was. The impossible had happened after all, not in the form of a wedding, but in the form of healing, in the form of friendship, in the form of learning that sometimes the life you don't plan is exactly the life you need. Maya smiled back at them, and in that moment, she knew with absolute certainty that she was enough. She always had been. She just needed someone to remind her. And that reminder, that had been the most impossible, most beautiful gift of all.